What's up, my Central Unit? It's the Central Man here. So it's been a long time since I did a movie review on this channel. I think it was this past summer. I think it was in June or July. I remember. Yeah, I reviewed the remake of The Karate Kid from 2010. Stars Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith. I haven't really uploaded a video on the main channel, Central Man Network, for I think it was since I did a re-review of the first WCW Monday Nitro. That was in September. There is like some things why I haven't really focused on the main channel. Like, one, I was focused on my secondary channel, that is Central Man Sports. Go and check it out. Two, I'm busy, like I was just focused on like working. And three, I was looking for a new movie or video editor app on my laptop, because I usually do my videos on a film app called Filmforth. I think it's changed it to Movie Maker, but I kind of like stopped it because it was lagging. Like it's not letting me export videos. Exporting, uploading videos on YouTube, and also like uploading like picture on picture. So I kind of like had enough, because the original idea for the month of October, last month, is reviewing 35 episodes of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. That was the original goal, but that whole thing kind of like throw a wrench of doing that. So I felt like, you know what, let's give 1 month a break of focus on Central Man Network for the time being, focus on my secondary channel. And yeah, so we're in November now. I'm gonna go back and forth of doing one app to another, I think, because this video I'm gonna do is on CapCut, and another one, I think I did the same, it was the same app I made and review Survivor Series 2003. That was about nearly 2 years ago. So until I find the right one. So that's a bit of an update what's going on since I last uploaded a video on the main channel. So anyway, so this movie review, yeah, I'm going to review the first X-Men film from the year 2000. So because this past summer marks the 25th anniversary of the first X-Men film. I forgot to do it on that time, in July this year. Kind of forgot, was a bit busy, so I'm doing it in November now. I think it, like the X-Men, man, 25 years since the first X-Men film. I think it's the first of many X-Men films are gonna release in the next 2.5 decades. More of that later on. So yeah, it's directed by Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer, I think he did like one, he did this film and the sequel, but he didn't return for the third film, Last Stand, because I think he was focused on, he was doing Superman Returns. So, and he came back in the he did like the 2 prequel films, Day of the Future Past in 2014 and Apocalypse in 2016. And also, I never knew he also did Bohemian Rhapsody. That's about the Freddie Mercury film. So yeah, I think it's a good. I think like some films could be hit or miss. He did a film back in. I think his rise to fame was a a noir crime thriller called The Usual Suspects in 1995, and then he ended up doing it at Pupil. So yeah, he's starting to get some buzz in the Hollywood system. So he's directed to do it. So, and also I think this is probably the first, second Marvel film, because here's the reason. So in the you can tell in the 70s and 80s and up to the 90s, there was not a lot of Marvel films. It's just usually DC films like the Superman films and the Batman films. I think they did one. Yeah, actually, there was one film in the late 80s. Actually, the Punisher film from 1989 that stars Dolph Lundgren, but that was disappointed. And I think they did a Captain America film, but that was a TV film. But there was some Marvel stuff on TV, like they released the Incredible Hulk. I think they did, and then I think they did the live action. They did a live action Fantastic Four film. So yeah, there was not a lot of like big Marvel films up in the big screen. And then you got Blade in 1998, and then this film, The X-Men, and then 2 years later we got the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. So it's just like first of many Marvel films. You can tell like this is you can tell like the 2000s, the decade is the rise of Marvel films. Anyway, so we'll get to more of the plot. Yeah, there were plans to do it in the 90s, but that didn't really. I don't think it really fall through. So we got in the 2000s, the start of the millennium. So this is a make or break, because let me see if this film didn't do well in the box office. I think this will be the beginning. Actually, not the beginning, but I think that will be the end of superhero films on the silver screen. I'm going to say it again later on in this video, or we'll get in the end of this video, this review of this film, The X-Men. I think I'm glad it was a success. I'm glad that we'll get this and Spider-Man films and Fantastic Four films, Incredible Hulk films, and the MCU films. But yeah, I'll say it again later on in this review. So anyway, so you could tell the casting of this film was really spot on. You got Patrick Stewart as Professor Charles Xavier. Yeah, I found it on because he appeared in Richard Donner's film. What's it called? The Conspiracy Theory. That I heard I think this film's. I don't know if Rick Donner. I think it was the exclusive producer of this film, or maybe is produced by his wife Lauren Schuler Donner. So yeah, because Rick Donner did the he's known for making the soup. I think he did the first Superman film. I think he did the second film. But anyway, so. And also, I found some research going into this. This review of the X-Men is Michael Jackson was offered or was rumored to play Charles Xavier. That would be absolutely dumb and stupid. I'm glad they never going in that direction. I'm glad we got Patrick Stewart. He's one of the best actors in the business. Jim Caviezel was. Jim Caviezel was linked to be the role of Cyclops. Scott Summers, but I think he turned it down. Give it to James Marsden. Got the part. I think Charlize Theron was linked to be Jean Grey. I think she turned it down. Franca Janssen took the part as Jean Grey. I think Janet Jackson and Angela Bassett. I think Jackson turned it. They were about to be linked to be in the role of Storm, but I think it was too expensive to have Angela Bassett betrayed Storm. So Halle Berry took the mantle. Ian, Tyler Mane and Sabretooth. Victor Creed. I heard like rumors like Kevin Nash was rumored to be. I think it was the first choice to be Sabretooth, but I think he turned it down due to pay disputes. So anyway, Anna Paquin as Marie, aka Rogue. I think it was like Natalie Portman. What's it called? Jennifer Love Hewitt. Linked with the role as Rogue, but turn it down. Like here's I got the Wikipedia page for Rogue. She kind of dropped out of. She was about to do this film called Tart, but dropped out in the lead role in Tart for the Favour of X-Men. Rachel Lee Cook was also considered the role of Rogue, but she kind of like turned it down and regret it, Janet Jackson turned it down. So Ian McKellen as Magneto. I heard like Terrence Stamp, the guy who played General Zod in Superman 2. Christopher Lee was rumored to be like cast as Magneto, but I feel they turned it down. Can you imagine Christopher Lee portraying Magneto? That would be good. Yeah, he ended up like portraying Count Dooku in Star Wars Episode 2, The Attack of the Clones. So yeah, Ian McKellen, I'll get to more of him later on. And I heard like Russell Crowe was linked to be Logan, Wolverine. Before that you had here's the cast of a Wolverine. So Fergal Mortensen was linked to be the role was linked to be to be cast as Wolverine. I think he turned it down. Dougray Scott was also cast as Wolverine, but he also turned it down. I think he doesn't want to go back and forth. Like, I think it's got like due to schedule conflicts, because he's doing the sequel to Mission Impossible 2, so he sustained injuries in a motorbike accident. So he also said that Tom Cruise made him drop out of the role as well. Russell Crowe was linked to be. It was the first choice to be Wolverine, but he turned it down. He recommended it to his friend Hugh Jackman. I don't think Hugh Jackman. So I don't think Russell Crowe will be. I don't think he will be getting in good shape, like going on a bodybuilding diet. Eating a lot of like chicken and broccoli. It's funny, he ended up like appearing in some superhero films. In the next several years, he appeared as Jor-El in Man of Steel, the Superman reboot in 2013, Zeus in the fourth Thor film, Love and Thunder. So yeah, I'll get to more of that. I'm just like talking about the cast, who's the original idea, and the actual cast for this film. This film, X-Men 1. I watched this. I think I was like too young at the time because this film this film was in the year 2000. At the time, I was 6 years old, but I kind of grew up watching the X-Men animated series and X-Men Evolution. The old X-Men show was on Fox Kids at the time, if you grew up in that era. And X-Men Evolution, I remember it was on Cartoon Network. So yeah, I kind of grew up watching the X-Men cartoons, the original one and Evolution. So yeah, I was 6 at the time. Didn't when the film came out. So I saw it. I think like a decade later. I think it was like 2014, 2015. About a decade and a half later. I was in my like 20 because I seen the third film. I can't remember seeing the second film. So I saw the third film. I'm talking about the X-Men films I watch. Like I saw the first film, saw the third film, saw First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, the Wolverine films. Origin Wolverine, The Wolverine, Logan, and plus the Deadpool films. The only two films or two X-Men films I did not watch is Dark Phoenix, thank God, that was a piece of shit film. And also I also didn't saw is trying to get words out. Mutants. New New Mutants. That was the film in 2020, but COVID pandemic hit, so didn't got a chance to see it. And I've heard that film bombed. They had Charlie Heaton and Maisie Williams in that film. New Mutants, man. I might review that film in the future. So anyway, yeah, the film, like, over the original film, like, I think I did remember seeing the second film. Maybe it'll be on TV. I think I ranked X2's number 1. Last Stand. I'm ranking the original film between this film and Last Stand, not like the overall X-Men films. Yeah, like X2, X1, and Last Stand. That's I brackets best and worst. But this is a mid-table X-Men film. I don't say it was a bad film, but it didn't really lit up the hype. It did not live up the hype. It didn't really like go. It wasn't nothing amazing and fantastic. It's just like a decent film. So I don't really call it an origin film. Well, kind of. It's not like all about the formation of the X-Men. That was going towards First Class in 2011. So you could say it's kind of I say kind of an origin film with it's about Rogue Marie. Like in the beginning parts of the film, she was about to go to a place in, I'll say Canada, but I think it's near Alaska. What's it? Anchorage? I can't really pronounce it. I'm trying to find it. Was it Anchorage? I'm gonna be like, yeah, Anchorage. I think it's called Anchorage. What's it called? Anchorage. Like, actually, it's not in Canada. It's actually in Alaska. And she's with David. Like, I'm guessing that's the girlfriend of Rogue, or the boyfriend of Rogue. Sorry, my bad. But she was, yeah, like, I thought it was Canada, but it's a place in Alaska. Anchorage, it's called Anchorage. So anyway, Rogue or Marie kiss on David, and she's basically he basically poisoned. She's acting like he's some kind of poison. He looks like there's veins around his face. David's like, mum and dad thumbs up. Rogue Marie was like freaking out, panicking, shouting, get the hell away from me. Because Rogue's powers, Rogue's powers, or Marie, never knew that, she absorbed any memories in Life Force. So I'm guessing like she gets the powers temporality, even though that David guy was not really a mutant. He's basically just a normal person. So I think like, yeah, it is an origin, because I feel like she was not really panicking. She's not really telling people you're a freak. You know, she's a freak. You know, she kind of like slowly adapt of. You know, she's discovering new powers. She's gone to like, I'm guessing like, looks like Canada or some parts of Alaska. It looks like some cold place. Met Logan. Yeah, this film is technically the MVP of this film has to be Hugh Jackman. You know, because Hugh Jackman before this, he's unknown. I think he did some TV show. He's been acting since 1994. This is like 5 or 6 years before the X-Men production. You know, the production of the first film. So, anyway, I think he did Corelli, for that's an Australian TV show that he kind of met his real life wife in real life. What's it called? Deborah Funes. So anyway, but anyway, he was skinny, you know, in the first film. But I think he improved his physique in the later films of the X-Men, and including the Wolverine films. You know, he packed lots of muscle. Great example. By the time we hit Days of Future Past, he looks buffer. And anyway, so it's funny. Like, this film was a success. He went on to really put Hugh Jackman's career on the map. He's still getting work to this day. Anyway, he really plays that character pretty damn well. He's kind of this lone wolf type character, you know. Lone wolf, you know, but he kind of cared about Marie, Rogue. Like, I feel like they met. They didn't really met in the bar. Like, he got in he was fighting in. It wasn't really a bar. I think it was I don't know. It was a bare knuckle fight. It looks like a human cop fight. Yeah, you got like the UFC dome in the background. So he beat this guy, and then minutes later, this guy who lost the fight to Logan confronted him. I think asked him where's his money, and then Logan showed his alimenting claws, and also his secondary powers is he heals very rapidly. And yeah, you got the bartender is about to trying to blow Logan's head off, but instead Logan cut the gun in half with the aluminium claw. Yeah, I feel like Rogue was sleeping on I think it was on like in Logan's caravan, something like that. It was yeah, I felt like she fled to Alberta in Canada. I think it was a trailer, some kind of trailer. She's sleeping in or hiding in a cloak or something like that. Anyway, I think he asked him to, you know, Rogue asked Logan, I'm gonna call him Rogue instead of Marie. So anyway, Rogue asked Logan, she can kind of have a ride. I think Logan says no. He thought like Logan drives away. He kind of stopped. You can tell, like, I like the chemistry in this film between like Anna Paquin and Hugh Jackman. You know, both. Even though like Hugh Jackman's Australian and Anna Paquin, she is from New Zealand. Never knew that. I thought she was from America. Never knew that. Anyway, they introduce each other. Like yeah, they really got on very well. They got that father and daughter moment in the train. I'll get to more of that later on. So anyway, so yeah, I think that was kind of like the main highlight point of the film. There's not a lot of there's not a lot there's not a lot of fight scenes. You know, I'll get to more of that later on as well. Ian McKellen portraying the role of Eric Lansha, aka Magneto, the mutant that controls metal. Like in the beginning parts of the film, like that was set in 1944. That was during World War II. You know, he's separate from his family from the Nazis because he was Jewish, and then he suddenly, you know, managed to control the metal gates, or open the metal gates open. He got knocked out by the Nazi soldiers. You could tell, like in X-Men First Class, this is the problem with the X-Men, the prequel, the prequels. No, they're not doing the sequels. Not the sequels, but the prequels. And the Wolverine films, they kind of messed up the canon of the X-Men universe. I don't want to get more in details of that, you know. Anyway, like in the you know, in X-Men, you know, in X-Men First Class, you know, introduced Sebastian. Was it Sebastian Shaw? That's is it Sebastian Shaw? Simon Shaw? I can't remember. That is Kevin Bacon's character of the film. You know, shot Magneto's mom. You know, that's another, because he's trying to move the coin. You know, that's another story of another time. I might review X-Men First Class in the future. So anyway, so you can tell, like, he's so pissed off, you know, his plan, because the government, the US government, you know, the one thing good about this film is showing the president, not president, the prejudice, I almost say president, I mean president, the prejudice of between non-mutants and mutants. You know, there were a lot of people protesting, like, no with mutants, blah blah blah, because the US government they're doing this registration act, basically making the mutants reveal themselves. They're no longer attend schools. Like they just want to reveal that mutant identity. You got is it Robert Kelly, Senator Robert Kelly, played by Bruce Davison. I'll get to more of it. I'm going to talk about him. You know, I don't think I'm going to talk about him again for the rest of this video. But like, I think he was wasted in this film. Like, I thought he's going to be like the secondary. I thought he's going to be the secondary villain of this film, because the main villain is Magneto. But no, he wasn't. You know. I'll get to more of him a bit later on, but he gotta like reveal that he said there was one mutant from Idaho or Idaho. I saw like the trailer of this film, you know, for my preparation of this film. One mutant from was it Idaho or Ohio, and that's referencing Kitty Pryde, and I think she appeared in the sequels of the X-Men film. Like, didn't really mention Kitty Pryde by name, but just saying like one mutant from Idaho or Idaho walking through walls, because Jean Grey, played by Franca Janssen, is it Franca? Yeah, Franca Janssen. Like did I think it was like some educational lecture about the involvement of mutants. I can't remember what she was doing. So anyway, and that's I think that was, and this is the nitpick about this film. I'm not saying this film is bad, but there was a lot of like, it's not messy, but kind of like, you know, it's a mixed bag overall. You know, not bad. I think it's more leaning towards positives than negatives. There's not a lot of like negatives. There's some, but not a lot. But anyway, like the positive is Hugh Jackman. You know, Anna Paquin, I put him in the positive as well, because she did a good performance portraying Rogue. But anyway, hear me out. So here's some of the negatives out of this first X-Men film. Like, they cram a lot of characters in the X-Men film. Like they're trying to get. That's a problem. Like doing a team superhero film, you're cramming a lot of characters to get some screen time. I think the one superhero team film did that and did it well is the Avengers film. For this, I feel like some of these characters had lack of screen time. Great example was Storm. Storm had a few scenes, not that important. I don't know, man. I feel like some of these characters aren't really fleshed out more and shine. That's only the one of the negatives of this film. Like Halle Berry's portrayal of Storm, she was fine. I don't know if she got better in the sequels. Like she got killed off in Days of Future Past. I don't want to get into that, but she was just kind of there. I feel like there was a fight with Toad. I'll get to more of that. Get to Toad a bit shortly. She made some kind of joke, like what you do with a Toad hit with the storm. It was on some crappy pun. I can't remember. It was a crap joke, But the fight scenes were kind of bland. The visual effects was kind of fine. Just whatever. It's good. Okay. It's fine. Nothing groundbreaking and amazing. But I feel like the positives. I'm glad they showcased the Predator's side. The people despise the mutants. Like if the MCU doing a future X-Men film down the road, I don't think it's gonna work. Even though some of these characters are coming back in Avengers Doomsday, that's another topic for another time. But if they're doing like just a normal X-Men film, it's gonna mess up the canon, like in the MCU universe. Like on one hand, how the people are like adoring, the Avengers, like Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and Hulk and Black Widow and Spider-Man and Ant-Man, and all of a sudden despising the mutants like Wolverine and Cyclops and Storm and Rogue and etc. Maybe like I think the one X-Men character kind of thrive outside of the X-Men universe is Wanda Maximoff, even though her character was in the X-Men, was in the X-Men universe. Now she's part of the MCU. But I don't know Elizabeth Olsen. I think she might be done with the MCU, but that's another story for another time. So I'll get back to Hugh Jackman in this film. Yeah, he was fucking good in this film. Like this film put his career on the map. Like he had a fight with Sabretooth. Like the guy right in in X-Men Origin Wolverine. That's another story for another time. The fight. They kind of say you had a Storm and Cyclops save Rogue and Wolverine. Wolverine's being down. You could tell in the fight pit scene, and he was back in Xavier's School of the Gifted. You had Jean kind of trying to give Wolverine some medical treatment. He escaped. He's still skinny. Like I said, I think he improved his physique in later films, and he hears Charles' voice. It's funny. Like I said, it kind of messed up the canon a little bit in the prequels. Like in great example in First Class. You got Eric Lansher and Charles Xavier meeting Logan in the bar. They introduce themselves, and Logan tell them to go fuck themselves. I think they kind of referenced that in Days of Future Past, but this is I'm guessing if that was the case, I'm guessing Logan and Charles Xavier don't really remember. I think they don't remember because this not Days of Future Past. In First Class, that was set in the 1960s. With Charles Xavier and Eric Lansha, Magneto were very young. You know, in their 20s and 30s. You know, Logan is barely aged. You know. So yeah, you can't. Yeah, you know, I can't. You know, he's trying to escape the academy. You know, you got Xavier kind of explain the history about the academy. That was good. I can't remember the dialogues, the memorable dialogues of this film. I'm not gonna waste my time and breath on this video. So anyway, Magneto was a psychopath in this film. Like, yeah, here's some negatives. You know, lack of fight scenes. I think the fight scenes were so bland. Like, they were kind of so bland. Like, the only one fight scene stands out in this film is the fight between Wolverine and Mystique. Besides that, you know, it's sort of take it or leave it. You know. So yeah, you kind of like And also there's another negative is how the hell Magneto knows about Rogue Marie. You know, I thought they were going to capture Wolverine, because in the fight scene, you know, when you had Sabretooth beating down Wolverine, took Logan's like dog tag. You thought they're going to capture Wolverine, but instead they captured Rogue. Anyway, and then I think Mystique. By the way, Mystique was played by Rebecca Romijn. The first of two actresses portraying Mystique in live action. You know, her and Jennifer Lawrence in the prequels. Anyway, so she was kind of fine in this film. You know, I think she was good in this film. I'm glad they never killed her off, man. I felt like, you know, if they attempt to kill her off, that'll be the same thing like they killed off when Star Wars, you know, in Episode 6, The Return of the Jedi, they killed off Boba Fett. You know, you don't know how popular that Boba Fett character will become. I'm glad they you know, like, I'm guessing like she survived. You know, he missed, you know, the aluminium claw missed the vital organs. You know, I'm guessing wounded her. But anyway, you know, she kind of like portrayed as Bobby, you know, Iceman. That was played by Sean Ashmore. Like in some parts of the film, like she kind of like friends with Rogue, you know, Marie Rogue. You know, she attends school in a class, and yeah, some cameos of other X-Men characters like Jubilee. It's funny like Jubilee was one of the main characters of the X-Men animated series in the 90s. In the live action film in the 2000s, he's just a normal guy, just a background character. I think she was a recurring cast in Apocalypse, you know. Pyro Man? I think also appeared in the sequels. He had this rivalry between him and Iceman, in great example in Last Stand. So anyway, like Rogue's power, like Logan had a lot of fucking like Logan has basically a PTSD, man. Like in the scenes in the first film, he had nightmares of the experiment by Stryker, you know, because how he got the aluminium claws. I think they covered that a little bit in X2 and then in Origins Wolverine. You know, you could tell the guy's got PTSD. You know, like he's been through a lot of hell. Like, you know, the whole stuff with Stryker, and he's also a great example in X-Men Origin Wolverine. He fought in like wars, like in the Civil War, World War One, World War Two, and the war in Vietnam. You know, he's like, you could tell he developed a lot of PTSD. And like you had Rogue in the bedroom, in Logan's bedroom. I think Logan woke up accidentally stabbing Marie Rogue. I think it's in the chest with the claw. and he's in shock. He's shouting for help. Instead, Rogue touched Logan. That allows him to heal herself because like I said, Rogue's powers. I think he has sword power. Life force powers and memories. I think the powers. I think it's only temporality. It's not like permanent. You can follow Rogue. I kind of follow some of the characters of X-Men. Anyway, so you could tell like with boy, oh boy, like I said, like Mystique portraying as Iceman, saying like the mutants are like so upset and angry, and the professor is so angry about you. It's not really Iceman, it's basically just Mystique, because Mystique's powers, she's a shapeshifter. Anyway, it's a bit, tell Rogue to get out, It's like I said, it's a bit of a plot hole of the first film, how like Magneto and others discover Rogue, who Rogue is. So yeah, like I said, it's an origin film for Rogue, like you had this wholesome moment on the train, like you had Rogue telling Logan that David, saying like she put him in a coma for 3 weeks or 3 months. She cried, and then Logan with the line says, there's not a lot of people who understand when you're going through this. I'm trying to remember the line. So yeah, there's not a lot of people understand when you're going through. That's the line. Going through. Anyway, Professor is one of them, and maybe you give these geeks one more shot. I think they're trying to help us. Between not just her but Logan. They're both going through shit. Anyway, so yeah, like Magneto was good. I think he was so cold-blooded, cold-blooded, don't give a fuck, he's trying to stop this whole like registration law pass, like there's no lot of interaction between Magneto and Charles Xavier. Like I think there was like 2 or 3 scenes, but besides that, I guess they can't really fight, not physically, because they got, both powers are different, because I think with Professor X, Charles Xavier, he's telepathic. Not telepathic. I think he's telekinesis or telepathic. He's a mind reader. I mean, Magneto is just moving metal. Like one scene after catching Rogue, there was police officers with guns, and he made it. He controlled the guns because he controlled metal. Made them and forced them to shoot themselves with the guns. And like one scene, like there's the bullets on one of the police officers' head. I thought it was going through the head, but it didn't. Yeah, you got like Charles. I'm guessing. I guess basically controlling Sabretooth. I'm not gonna go into that dialogue. I can't remember. I'm not saying the dialogue is memorable, but I just can't remember. I think it's a bit bland and flat. I wish they had more interaction, more. So yeah. So anyway, because with both Charles Xavier and Magneto, they both have different philosophies and mindsets. Because Charles Xavier wants mutants to use their powers for good, control their powers for good. That's why he did the the Xavier Academy for the Gifted. Or with Magneto, he just want to rule over the humans. Anyway, so okay, let's talk about Bruce Dickinson's character, Robert Kelly. Senator Kelly. Anyway, so Wasted. I know he came back. I think he came back in the sequels. I'll get to more of that shortly. But Wasted in this film. He got captured by Mystique and Magneto. Magneto's powers in this film is basically turn every non-humans into mutants. You know, he did it to Senator Kelly. He's trapped in his cell. He got the power to move through the bars from the cell window. And then suddenly when Sabretooth trying to pick him up, instead his hands are more flubbery and slippery. And he's falling into the water, and he's lost all his clothes, he's naked, his skin was a white, bluish, and then it's back to his normal skin color. Took his I think he took some normal clothes, and then he went to the academy, get medical treatment, and his mutation is breaking down. You can tell it's breaking down on him. It's not stabilizing, and suddenly he ended up like turning into a massive pool of water. And yeah, even though Mystique, you know, I think like in the end of this film, kind of like survived the stabbing by Wolverine, you know, betraying Robert Kelly, you know, because I understand why they're bringing the reason why they brought Ian McKellen and Bruce Davison. Did I call him Dickerson minutes ago? My bad, it named Davison. It's not Davidson, Davison, not David Davison. Anyway, I think they appeared in Bryan Singer's previous film called At Pupil. That was the reason, but yeah, I think he was wasted in that film. Not Ian McKellen. I think he was one of the highlight points of the film. You know, the main, yeah, even though the main actor, the MVP of this film is Hugh Jackman, but I think with Dickerson's film, I think he was just a generic government guy. That's it. So anyway, let's go to the rest of the evil mutants. You know, I think there's only three. Like I talked about Ian McKellen's. I talked about Magneto, Mystique. They had Sabretooth, played by Tyler Mane. He's a wrestler. And also, he ended up playing Michael Myers in the Halloween remakes, you know, reboots in the late 2000s. I think they did one. That was the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes. Did he put in another Marvel film? Because everyone knows Kevin Nash was supposed to be Sabretooth, but instead I think he turned it down. He ended up playing the Russian in the Punisher film. And also I think Anna Paquin also appeared in that Punisher film. I think she was a waitress. I think with Frank Frank Castle singing In Time by Mark Coley. I think it was the first film or the second film. I'm not too sure. I think it might be the first. Yeah, I think it might be the first film. So anyway, Tyler Mane was fine in this film. Not a lot of dialogue, you know. He's just kind of there, like a henchman for Magneto. I think did he appear in the sequels? Because, like in X-Men Origin Wolverine, you know, he didn't came back for Origin Wolverine. We got Liz Schreiber took the role as Victor Creed. He came back in the cameo in the Deadpool film. You know, Wolverine killed him off. That was kind of like whatever. I'm not going to get into that. You know, it's kind of fine. It's just whatever, man. But you got Toad, played by Ray Parks. You know, he just recently did the first Star Wars. He did Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, playing Darth Maul. You know, he did okay in this film as well. Not a standout performance. You know. So yeah, there was this film also showcased the love triangle storyline between this, you could say, this friendly rivalry, jealousy rivalry, you can call it, between you know, Logan and Scott and Jean Grey a little bit. You know, like when Logan met Jean, you know, he's freaking out. He's about to choke her out, or try and break her neck. I think later on he kind of apologized to her, and then Jean kind of like read her mind, go through her mind, because she's got telekinesis and telepathic. You know, saw her mind of, you know, when Logan got the adamantium claws. You thought like you can see Scott over there, thought like they're kissing, but instead it's not the case. Anyway, so I kind of like the slight rivalry between Scott and Logan, you know, over Jean Grey, you know. Like figure like you should, you know, like I think it was like one scene they're in the plane and talk about they're wearing the black costumes. I think that was going in the right direction, you know. I think like if they just wear the colorful costumes from the comics and the animated show, I think it'd be so goofy back then, you know. If they do it right now, I think if they did it right now, you know, I think it'd be a paying homage to the comics and the animated series. So, I think like Logan says, you know, something about like wearing this something about the costume, and Cyclops with the snarky remark says, what are you supposed to be wearing? Yellow spandex. You know, it's referencing Wolverine's costume, and he end up like referencing in the ultimate ending of the Wolverine, even though like they end up had Logan put on the yellow spandex in the third Deadpool film. It's kind of cool homage, you know. It's funny. Here's the funny part. You know, I think they're in some museum. Logan trick off the metal detector, broke the metal detector with the claws. He kind of sticks one of the metal claw and flip off Scott Cyclops, you know. And after the fight between Logan and Mystique, you know, Logan says it's me. Cyclops says prove it. He called Cyclops, you're a dick. I kind of laugh at that, you know. It's kind of like this friendly rivalry between Cyclops and Wolverine. This is revolved around Jean Grey, so you know, yeah, they kind of use the you know, like Rogue. They kind of use Rogue for the power. I think it like briefly the machine like Magneto belt. I think it allows the term a non-human into mutants, but at the same time, it kind of weakened him. So yeah, anyway, they end up breaking the machine, save Rogue. Rogue's hair kind of changed. Like the front part of the hair, you know, it's white. You know, throughout the whole film, I think it was black. Is it black or brown? Can't really remember. So I think it's brown. Is it brown? Yeah, brown. Now it's a bit white because in the comics and the cartoon, he has like a brief of white hair. I think like in the anime series, she flies. I think that'd be dumb. You know, I think like her having the powers to suck out like soul power is I think the one character I compare Rogue is Kevin 11 from Ben 10. They both got similar of powers. You know, they absorb things. You know. Anyway, so. Yeah, I think I covered most of it. Yeah, I think I covered most of it. If I missed out something, but I think, like I said, I feel like there's not a lot of like interaction between Charles Xavier and Magneto. Wish they had more showcasing more interaction because Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are friends in real life. I wish they introduced more. They kind of interact in they attend the U.S. Congress in Washington. You know, the stuff in the car. You got like Xavier in the car controlling the mind of Sabretooth, and now in the end of the film, you had Xavier, Professor X, visiting Magneto in jail. Even though it's just like basically they sort out their differences. That was kind of some negatives. But besides that, it was a fun film. Just a fun film. I don't say I take it seriously, but it was a fun film. Like I said, from the beginning parts of the film, that like if this film did, this is basically WrestleMania 1 of superhero films. But they probably gaslight it like this is amazing, but besides that, it's not really amazing. But if that film really didn't do well in the box office, I think this that will be the end of the superhero genre. Like I said, like I think with Batman and Robin, like yeah, Batman and Robin from 1997, you thought that was the final nail in the coffin, because before that, you know, you had the other Batman film, was it Batman Forever? That was not that good. But you thought Batman and Robin was the final nail in the superhero genre film coffin, but instead, yeah, they did Blade in 1998. You know, I remember Blade as a kid. You know, I can't remember the plot. You know, I was a kid. I was like a toddler back then. You know, I heard it did well in the box office and it set up sequels. And then they did and then 2 years later X-Men, and then 2 years after that we got the first Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man made more of an impact. You know, you could tell like Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man, they're kind of like, this is a sign of their paying respect of the source material. Like with the Batman films and the final two Superman films in the early to late 80s, they don't really pay source of the source material. I'm not going to get into that. You know, they didn't do well in the box office. You know, the point is you got to pay sources, you got to pay with respect. You know, otherwise, because I think sometimes you like these films over the years, like I think with Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin, they made it so cheap and ridiculous. So there's other superhero films like before and after, they end up like not doing well because, like I said, you got to pay the source material. You got to get the characters right. So anyway, so I feel like I cover most of it. Like I cover most of it. You know, yeah, when I watched it, you know, it was good. Nothing fancy. Not going. Yeah, you're not gonna get. You're not getting a lot. You know, yeah, you're not really getting a lot of action scenes of this film. You know, I think like they're focused more on storytelling than action. You know, but besides that, you know, it was a really good film. So yeah, I think I did cover most of this film of X-Men 1. So yeah. I think the next movie review I'm going to do is Chicken Run, because this year also marks the 25th anniversary of that film, and also in 2026 I'm going to review. I'm going to review because 2026 marks the 50th anniversary of a true horror classic. It's called The Omen, so I'm going to like cover that. And also maybe the remake and the sequels, who knows? And also the prequel, by the way. You know, who knows? You know, we're still in 2025. So anyway, folks, what's your thoughts on X-Men 1 in the comment section below? Smash like button, click the like, click the bell, subscribe to the Central Man Network on YouTube, be part of the Central Unit for more wrestling videos and more, and also plus subscribe to the Central Man Sports. Anyway, folks, this is the Central Man officially signing out. Check you later.